Well, hey, everybody. Great to be with you again in your small group. And again, I'm so excited that you have joined together with the entire Anchor Point family to go through Matthew chapter 10 together, where we are learning the instructions that Jesus gave to his disciples as he sent them out. And I want to first begin by reminding us and encouraging you to continue to pray Matthew chapter 9, verse 38. You'll remember that Jesus said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Therefore, pray earnestly to the Lord of the harvest that he would send out laborers into his harvest field." As a whole church, please continue to pray that way throughout this entire series that we're in together. Now in chapter 10, as the disciples began to pray that prayer, what we find and what you learned from the sermon on Sunday is that Jesus called the 12, who were apostles, to himself, and then he sends them out. So what that tells us is that as the disciples prayed, "Lord, send out workers into your harvest field," Jesus makes them the answer to their own prayer. And that's how Jesus works often, isn't it? That you, first of all, must understand that you yourself, as a group and as an individual, and we as a church, are the answer to our own prayers, that we are to live sent to tell others about the news of Jesus Christ, his life, death, and resurrection. We, in chapter 10, saw the list. Matthew gives us a list of the 12 apostles. And as we saw in the sermon, or heard in the sermon, that these 12 were unique. They had unique power that not all disciples of Jesus have, because they had been with Jesus. They had seen Jesus' life, death, and they had been witnesses of the resurrection of Jesus. And Jesus gives them instructions to go to the lost sheep of Israel, to go to them first. That doesn't mean that they were never to go to anyone else. In fact, we see that in the book of Acts, that Gentiles were eventually grafted in. But it had to start with Israel and the people of God, Jerusalem. So Jesus says, go there first and do two things: proclaim the gospel and heal everyone of their illnesses as a testimony that you have been with me, that you are my chosen apostles. And where this goes for us as disciples of Jesus is when Jesus says to the apostles, don't take anything with you, no money, no possessions, in effect, as we learned on Sunday. What that tells us is that as we, as disciples of Jesus, go out and tell others about Jesus Christ and life that can be found in him, we don't need material possessions to do that. We simply have a simple message that does not require money. It does not require possessions. It simply requires a desire for people to know who Jesus is. And as a group, I know that's true of you as individuals and as a group. It's also true of us as a church. The second thing that we learned is that wherever we go, whatever village, whatever street we go on, whoever we talk to, there will be a number of different responses. Some will say, "Yes, I believe." And others will say, "No, go away from me." Some will reject it. And Jesus' response is simply, if those reject it, wipe the dust off your feet, which was an expression of, you've done what you can. Now continue to move forward and carry the message of Jesus to others. And he does say at the end of this text, as we saw on Sunday, truly, truly, it's a sad condition that those who reject Christ, for them it will be worse than Sodom and Gomorrah, which was an Old Testament city that completely rejected God and became more and more immoral and were judged for it. Jesus doesn't want that to happen, but he says this is what happens if people do reject Christ. And so the basic instruction is to all disciples, which was included the apostles, is to go to all people. And you don't need a lot of things. You don't need money. You don't need possessions to bring the message of Jesus Christ. You simply need to have a desire to do it. And as you do it, the Holy Spirit works in people's lives. They will either reject it or they will accept it. But the mission is clear: to live sent as disciples of Jesus for the glory of God and the joy of all people. I hope you enjoy your study and enjoy your time now as you go through the questions. God bless, and remember to continue to pray for the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest field. And remember that you are the answer to that prayer first and foremost. God bless. Have a wonderful time together.